I love a good airtime hill on a roller coaster. Whether it's a big, tall, sprawling hill that sends you floating up out of your seat on a hypercoaster, or a small, low to the ground bunny hop that just ejects you sharply up out of your seat, these are my favorite moments on a roller coaster. It's the element I'm always looking forward to. But those elements that really get me going are the airtime hills that surprise you. It's when it sends you up out of your seat in a way that you don't expect. And most of the time, that comes in the form of an older, classic wooden coaster. And there's a lot of good ones out there, going all the way back to Rushabanan at Tivoli Gardens, Jackrabbit at Kennywood, Zippin' Pippin at Bay Beach, Cyclops Mount Olympus. All of these are known for having a standout airtime moment. But one ride that might just outdo all of those is Classic Coaster at the Washington State Fair. This is a ride that operates only twice a year, in April and then September. It's located south of Seattle in Puyallup. It's located south of Seattle in Puyallup and has been operating since 1935. It's only 55 feet tall, reaches a surprising max speed of 50 miles per hour, and has under 3,000 feet of track. The stats on this are not anything interesting. It was designed by John A. Miller, it's an out and back layout, runs right up against the road, it's the first thing you see as you're approaching the fair, and so as a result, this is surely one of their most popular attractions. I recently had the opportunity to visit the fair for my first time. I was excited to take a ride on this because I knew how elusive it was, and to put it lightly, I was not prepared at all for what this ride had in store for us. Specifically, with one moment in the back row. If you ride Classic Coaster in just about any other row, this is a tame family coaster. You could put your kids up front as their first big roller coaster and they would love it. But if you're a thrill seeker looking for a major adrenaline rush, look no further than that last row. And the first indicator that it's a little crazy is that there is a secondary restraint that does not exist in any other row. No matter where you ride in, there's a lap bar that comes down, it locks in place, it's at the same height for everyone. But in the back, you also gotta fasten that seatbelt. None of the others have it, and it's for a reason. On the turnaround of Classic Coaster, this ride tries to launch you into outer space. And is one of the most unexpected, terrifying moments I have ever experienced on a roller coaster. What happens is the train rises up into the furthest point on the attraction and does a U-turn. The cars ahead of you, there are 8 of them on this train, start to go down this drop while you're still clearing this turn. So by the time they're at the bottom, you're getting ejected upwards and also to the side. It is absolutely insane. I think what makes it work so well is that one, that lap bar is very freeing. It is not exactly close to your body, so you feel relatively exposed. There are 2 drops prior to this, and neither one of them is all that great. The first little dip is like a tease. It honestly reminded me of the start of Lightning Rod, how it's like a false drop and then the bigger one is right ahead of you. But it's not profiled in a way to do anything crazy. If anything, it's the hill directly after this turnaround that'll get you. It's not quite as insane because you aren't getting the same lateral forces, but you still get tossed upwards in a pretty aggressive way. The problem is, those are the only moments on the ride that are like that. So if you're like us and you experience those 2 crazy hills, you're probably like, holy crap, what else does this ride have in store? And the answer is not a whole lot else. Yes, there's plenty more airtime hills, but do they send you up out of your seat? Not exactly. It's literally just those 2 spots. And that's what makes this ride so interesting. It almost feels like those hills are a mistake. Like it wasn't meant to do that, because they definitely feel out of place when you compare it to the rest of the experience. And that's why I also mentioned some of those other rides at the beginning of the video, like Jackrabbit at Kennywood literally has one singular airtime moment that is incredible and the rest of the ride is pretty underwhelming. Same with Zippin' Pippin, it has a lot of nice floater hills and then it has that ejector death hill right as you're hitting the brake run. Cyclops at Mount Olympus used to have a car at the back of the train that was for people 18 and older because the airtime was that crazy and they eventually just took off the car entirely. So now no one gets to experience that crazy hill in that same way. I think objectively when it comes to seeing like the full package, I would take some of those other coasters over this one, but man, Classic Coaster still just exceeded expectations. I didn't at all know it was going to do that, and it made me so glad I had the opportunity to visit. I know the operational times can be a little annoying to work with, but that ride alone made visiting the Washington State Fair worth it. So let's talk final scores, and I think to really make this fair, we have to compare it to other wooden roller coasters of a similar age. One attraction that is very similar that I think is nowhere near as crazy is Roller Coaster at Lagoon. That opened in 1921. I wish Roller Coaster had that crazy of an airtime hill. I'd still rather ride Rushibanen at Tivoli Gardens, but I would absolutely take this over Rushibanen at Bakken. But I don't think I would take it over the Cyclone at Coney Island. Because even though this has the better airtime moment, the Cyclone has a much better layout and delivers the entire way through. And honestly, I could go on and on comparing it to old wooden roller coasters, and frankly, maybe that's a video for another time. So I think what I'm going to do is give Classic Coaster an 8.5 out of 10. Because it's very good for its age. It's been overall well maintained. It didn't feel crazy rough or anything like so many of these older rides. It had 2 fantastic moments, but the reason it's not getting a higher score is because in order to really experience those fantastic moments, you have to ride in the back row. In any other row, it doesn't do it. And then the rest of the ride is just kind of okay. Without those 2 moments, this ride would be forgettable. So that's what makes it an interesting one to talk about. But I want to hear from you guys down in the comments below. If you've ridden Classic Coaster at the Washington State Fair, do you agree with the points that I brought up? Do you think there's anything I missed? And of course, stay tuned for more here at Coaster Studios, and I'll see you next time.